or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation or of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed. Otherwise, the whole attempt becomes a failure. But, but any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect. Even though not finished, the performer of such work is therefore not at loss, even if his work is in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%, whereas in material activity without 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamila performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100%, by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is hard for me to say, sorry.
No problem. You can read, keep reading the text.
I can try. Tyaktva swadharman charanam bhujam harer pajan apavkvo tapatet tato yadi yatra kva va badram amusya kim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmata. If someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness and then falls down on account of not completing his work, what loss is there on his part? And what can one gain if one performs his material activities perfectly? Or, as the Christians say, what profit a man if he gain the whole world yet suffer the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna's consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great, cultured Brahmana or in a rich aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness.
All right, so this is a very important verse, which is often quoted in this, when we talk on the basis of scripture, we often may quote this verse because Lord Krishna is saying that if you make even a little advancement, it can be it's a very valuable thing. The value is that now we have the human body, but if we don't use it properly, the next life we don't know what kind of body we will take. Because there are 8,400,000 different forms of life. And if we don't make proper use of the human body, then next life we may take birth in animal species or the tree species or some fish or bird or something like this. The human life is very important. The human life is a great responsibility. So if we use it to become a devotee and to do some service for Krishna, it's a great benefit. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes some verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam there, and he says that even we may not be able to complete the process of Krishna consciousness. We see sometimes people become a devotee of Krishna for some time, but then they go away, you know, they go back to maybe they have some bad habits before, you know, sometimes people are, you know, maybe they drink or they gamble or whatever they do, or they're not able to keep up the principles. So they fall down, they go back into their old habits again. But the verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam said, there's no harm. It's not a problem because they still get the benefit of whatever service they did. But if they didn't do any service, then there's no gain for them. They didn't do anything in Krishna consciousness, so they didn't get any benefit. So the Prabhupada quotes this Christian saying that what does a man profit if he gain the whole world? So you may get everything materially. You may get so much money and so much power and fame and reputation and everything that you could think of. But then at the time of death, it's all gone. It's all taken from you. And then you don't know where you're going to go. So what does a man profit if he gain the whole world? Yet suffer the loss of his eternal soul. If the soul enters into the lower species of life, then it's a very great shame. It's a big problem. So a little advancement made can help us so much. And then Prabhupada quotes in the last part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting from the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We'll see when we read chapter 6. Arjuna wants to know about what will happen if I'm not able to be successful in my practice of yoga. I may take up the yoga process, but I may not be fully successful in it. So what will happen to me? So Prabhupada quotes here, said that you take birth in a wealthy family or a family of a brahmana, and then you get the chance to continue in the next life. So you get the opportunity. Whatever work you do, you don't lose the benefit, you go on from that in the next life. So very important verse. But somebody doesn't do any service for Krishna, then they're in a very unfortunate position. So our Krishna consciousness movement is to try to make people fortunate, to save them from losing the valuable human life. If they do a little service, then it will guarantee that at least they can get a human body in the next life and go on from there. Okay, any questions on this? No questions? We can go on.
Fernando Prabhu, do you want to read this verse?
Yeah, sure, Mataji. So, Vijava Samyatmika Budir Ekha Kuru Nandana Bau Sakai Ananta Cha Budayo Vijavasanam. Translation: those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. On their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Purport: a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Yavatsayatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Karitamrita Madhya 22.62 states, Srada Sabde Vivasava Kae Sudrada Nishkaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krtahaya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva, Sarvam iti Samahatma Sudarlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's missions in life. Srila Visvanatha Chakravarti Thakura instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Yasya prasdadat bhagavata prasadu Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi Yanyan stuvam stasya yasa tri sandhyam Vande Guru Sri Karanam Vindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day, and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. One who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so this is a very important verse. Also, actually, we learn that Srila Prabhupada was inspired that he should go to the West from reading this verse and reading also the purport on this verse. The purport particularly, which was given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, emphasized the importance of fulfilling the desire of the spiritual master. Just like in the purport, Prabhupada quotes this verse, which we sing every morning in the Guru Vastikam prayers, Yashya Prasada Bhagavad Prasado, Yashya Prasada Nagati Kutopi. Right? By the mercy of the spiritual master, we get the mercy of Krishna. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, then it's very difficult to get Krishna's mercy. We can't go to Krishna directly. But when we go through the spiritual master, then it becomes much easier. So Srila Prabhupada was inspired from reading this verse of the Bhagavad Gita that he must take up the instruction of his spiritual master. His spiritual master had desired that the Krishna consciousness movement would be introduced outside of India. So Prabhupada decided that he would go to America. Now, previously, his own spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had sent his disciples to Europe, and they'd gone to Germany and to England, and they'd done something, some little bit, not much, but they found it difficult and they came back. So Srila Prabhupada, he decided he would go to America rather than go to England. And he went, of course, you know, that's the history. He went to America, he got the passage on the boat and got to America, and somehow he was successful. So he was inspired by this verse. Those who are on this path are resolute in determination. We have to be very resolute. We have to be very fixed that we want to serve Krishna. We want to take shelter of Krishna. We want to fix ourselves in consciousness of Krishna. And then we can think about how to serve Krishna. The instructions of the spiritual master are all to guide us in how to serve Krishna. But if we're irresolute, you know, we're not fixed, then the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branch. You know, we're thinking in so many different ways. We're not fixed on any one thing, and we move from here to there, restless, and we don't achieve anything. But Prabhupada, he went to America. He was very determined, and it was very difficult. He didn't know anyone, he didn't have money, but somehow or other he managed to stay there. And gradually he got success. So it's a very good example for us. And this verse is a very inspirational verse, very important verse for all the members of ISKCON society. We want to remember this kind of instruction. We have to be very resolute, very fixed, that we simply want to serve Krishna and surrender to Krishna. We have to know clearly what is the goal and not get diverted by so many other things. So, are there any questions on this, anyone?
Guru Maharaj, how do we know that whether we are fixed, whether we are getting diverted, or?
Well, like I said, we have to know what is the goal. What is the goal? The goal is we want to simply surrender to Krishna and take shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. So we're not thinking so much about material results. The goal is to develop devotion for Krishna. How much are we becoming attached to Krishna and Krishna's service? We're not just thinking about personal satisfaction. We're not just thinking about some kind of material result that, oh, we collected a lot of money or we got a big number of people, you know, like that. Some people, you know, they think that's the goal. You have to get a lot of people, then you're successful. No, we don't worry about these kind of things. We simply look for the purity. We say sometimes it's better one moon than many stars. If you get one sincere soul, that's better than having so many other people who are not sincere, who are not serious. And so many people may may come, but they may not be interested. You know, they don't really have a serious commitment to Krishna consciousness. So we're interested to actually commit ourselves fully to the service of Krishna. And it means giving up all kinds of desire for our own sense gratification, and we're not even worried about our own liberation. We're simply thinking about Krishna and Krishna's service. So in this sense here, in relation to this verse, we're thinking about fulfilling the desire of the spiritual master. The Srila Prabhupada went there under the instruction of his spiritual master. Although his spiritual master had left the world some 30 years earlier, but still Srila Prabhupada had that dedication and commitment to his spiritual master, that his spiritual master desired that this work should be done. So Prabhupada was thinking, let me try. May not be, it will be very difficult. Certainly it will be very difficult, but let me try. And so devotee also thinks like that. Let me try to do some service for Krishna. We may not get the results, we may not be successful, but there's no harm in trying. So people often look at, materialistic people, they like to see the results, they want to see big building, they want to see, a lot of people, but you may have a lot of people, nobody's following, nobody's serious. And so just having a lot of people who are not practicing seriously, it's not very good. We want to see quality, that people are seriously trying to take up Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Some people may worship other gods as well. They're not just devoted to Krishna, and they go. Sometimes they come to Krishna, and then other times they go other gods, other temples, and even other gurus. They have their other gurus. They have many gurus, all teaching different things and different paths. And they may, like that, they may move here and there. And so this was not very pleasing to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had one disciple who was also in the habit of going here and there, and he would go sometimes and he would listen to people talk about the impersonal Brahman and about the oneness of everything. And they would, talk very much against the philosophy of Bhakti. So Lord Chaitanya was very disturbed that this one devotee was doing like that. And Lord Chaitanya chastised him and corrected him and told him, no, don't do like that. Be chaste, be faithful. Just like a woman is chaste to her husband, she doesn't go running around with a lot of other men. So the same way, a devotee is chaste to Krishna, service to Krishna. We don't get diverted to other things. Okay.
Piranglo Prabhu, do you want to read it?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Yam imam pushpitam vacham para vadanti avipashchita vedavada rata parta ninyad ashtiti vadina kamatmana svarga para janma karma phalam pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bogaishvarya gatim prati. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Purport. People in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are all available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, enlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apam ma somam amrita abhuma and akshayam a vai chaturmasya yajjina sukritam bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4 months penances become eligible to drink the Somarasa beverages, to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have Somarasa, to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratifications. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandana Kadana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women and having a profuse supply of Somarasa wine. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world.
Okay. So this verse is talking about people who, they said many branched in the previous verse, those people not very resolute and they have many different interests. So this verse is explaining about some of these interests, like people worship to go to the higher planets. Their goal is not simply Krishna consciousness, but their goal is to go up to the heavenly planets. And on the heavenly planets, they know there's a lot more enjoyment there. People live a very long life and it's very opulent and everyone's very attractive and people can get intoxicated there also. They have their more sophisticated forms of intoxication. So some people are very interested to go to the higher planets, and they do it. Sometimes they do it by these different sacrifices which they perform. And then you've got other people who they recite the Vedas. They're called Veda Vada Ratas. Veda Vada Rata means they simply speak the Vedas. They mouth the Vedas. They're reciting the Vedas, but they don't understand the real purpose behind the Vedas. All right? We'll see in the Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter, Lord Krishna himself will declare, he will say, I am the author and I am the compiler of the Vedas. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. So the real purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna, But these people, unfortunately, they become attracted to so many other things. They want to go to the higher planets. They want to enjoy the opulence and the long life and so many other pleasures there which are offered. But all of these pleasures are very temporary, that you may go there, but you cannot stay there. This is the point. We have to understand that the problem that you may go there to the higher planets, but how long can you stay there? You stay there as long as you have some pious activities, as long as you have the credit of having performed some pious activities, you can stay there, but not forever. Then when it's all used up, you have to come back, come down again to the earth and begin again. So this is the problem. So who wants to go to heaven? Anybody interested?
My mind is very attracted.
Yeah, the minds that are, our mind are, certainly our mind will be attracted.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to control the mind. We have to understand that actually this is not really the goal. You know, go there to the higher planets and stay there for some time and then come back. And like this, we've already been there. We should understand in the past, we've already been there. We've already enjoyed these things. But still we're thinking, oh, I want to go again. I don't remember, I want to go again. But we've already been there, maybe even more than once. We've been here in this material world for a very long time. We don't remember all of our previous lives. Krishna remembers, but we don't. So, and some people, their interest is in liberation. They want to get out of the material world, but they don't understand what is the real purpose of liberation, which is actually devotional service. So some people, like the great yogis, they may enter into the Brahman, into the oneness of the Brahman. They can go there for some time, but they cannot stay there. Again, they cannot stay even on the platform of liberation because there's no activity there. There's only the oneness. And that brings us back into the material world. If there's no proper engagement, if there's no proper activity, we'll come back into the material world. So again, take up some other activity. Sometimes people come back, do welfare work, these kind of things. Of course, it sounds very wonderful. It's mentioned here about the beautiful women and the beautiful gardens and oh, so many heavenly pleasures, you know. We all know about heaven. We hear so much about heaven. So it's actually described for us. What is it like, you see? All kinds of enjoyment, but temporary. And to go there, of course, you have to have performed a lot of pious activities. So this is the result of your pious activities can take you into the heavenly planets. But you cannot stay there forever. So if we become Krishna conscious, the point is that we can, if we become actually Krishna conscious, we can go to Krishna's planet and we can stay there forever. Krishna will say, one who comes to my abode, he never leaves. Because we're so happy, we're so satisfied there, we will never leave Krishna's abode. But this material world is not like that. Everything, we see it here on this earth planet, we make attempts to try to enjoy And they have also beverages. On the higher planets, they have somaras. On this planet, they have, you know, all kinds of beverages. People drink alcohol, beer, wine, these things. This is the perverted reflection of the enjoyment on the higher planets, where people are drinking somaras. Drinking somaras is the results of pious activity. But when people drink alcohol, this is their sinful activity. This is, they're getting more sins. They're destroying they're giving themselves bad karma. You drink somaras, it's not harmful, but on this planet, when you take the intoxication, then it's harmful. It gives us more sinful reactions. It makes our life more miserable. But these people, the Vedavadaratas, you know, they just speak the Vedas. They don't understand the purpose behind the Vedas. This is the problem. So education is very important. People need the right education. Will we go ahead?
Tanmay Prabhuji, do you want to read this?
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Bhogaisvarya Paharita Chetasam Sayatmika Buddhi Samadhuna. Translation: in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport: Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Niruktaya, Samyak adhyate smin atma tattva yathatmyam. When the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to be in the samadhi. For persons interested in material sense enjoyment and bewildered by such temporary things, they are more or less condemned by the process of material energy.
So we should understand properly, material enjoyment and material opulence is not being condemned. It's not wrong. It's not, oh, devotee has to be a pauper and you have to live very poorly. We shouldn't have any opulence. But what is being said here is we shouldn't be attached to it. And we shouldn't allow ourselves to become bewildered by it. Right. So these two things, sense enjoyment and material opulence. Bhoga and Aishwarya. Bhoga, Aishwarya. Bhoga, material enjoyment or sense gratification. You know, in the temples, usually we refer to the food before it's offered, we talk about bhoga. We say, I'm going to the market to buy some bhoga, to buy the things which are going to be used to prepare the prasadam. So before it's offered, it's bhoga, but once it's offered, then it becomes prasadam. So here the word is used again, bhoga, material enjoyment. It's not offered yet to Krishna. And Aishwarya, opulence. You know, some devotees are very opulent, but they're very simple in their mind. They're not attached to it. They accept it, just like we see the story in Krishna Lila, the famous story about Sudama Brahman. Right? Do you all know that story? Sudama Brahman, He was very poor. And he went to see Lord Krishna in Dwarka. He and his wife were really, really poor because this Sudama, he wouldn't beg. He wouldn't go for any begging. Brahmanas are allowed to beg, but he wouldn't go. He thought, no, I'm not going to go and beg. So he and his wife, practically they were starving. They had nothing. His wife was dressed in rags. And they were very poor. But his wife knew that Sudama was a friend of Lord Krishna because Sudama had been in the school, what we would call the Guru Kula, the school of the Guru. And so Sudama had been with Lord Krishna in the Guru Kula. Guru Kula was in Sandipani Muni's ashram. Sandipani Muni's ashram is there in Avantipur. Avantipur today is called Ujjain. It's a town in India. So Sandipani Muni's ashram is there. And Lord Krishna had gone to school there. And he was a friend of Sudama, the Brahmin. So afterwards, of course, they finished their school. Sudama was a Brahmin. He got married. He's very poor. Somehow he got married. And Lord Krishna, he went to Dwarka. And he had all these princesses and he has all the palaces. So his wife said to Sudama, go to Dwarka and go and see Lord Krishna. So Sudama, he thought, well, it would be very nice to see Lord Krishna. He didn't want to ask anything, but he thought it'd be good to go and see Lord Krishna. But he said, well, if I go, I have to take something. So they had nothing, absolutely nothing for him to take there. So somehow his wife went to a neighbor and she was able to get
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hey.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, it's the same for everybody. Some problem with Maharaj connection.
I want to know the end of the story.
Yeah. We'll wait. Guru Maharaj will connect again.
Yes.
May I know who is Batma in this participant? Batma Mataji.
I'm from Mumbai.
Mataji, can you tell again? Sorry.
I am from Mumbai.
Okay, Mumbai. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm in the group also. That group, Malaysian group, because Guru Maharaj connected me there.
Ah, okay, Mataji. Very happy to have you.
Yeah, nice to know you also. I follow everything, Mataji.
Okay.
And then whatever mails you send, I also read and I also try to participate because I was in Dubai previously.
Okay, Mataji. Very nice.
Yeah, come to India in Pune.
Okay, Mataji. Very nice.
Although we have done the Bhagavad Gita, how much ever you go through it, you get better understanding every time, isn't it?
Yes, Mataji, definitely.
What's happened now? Is hanging?
Yes, Guru Maharaj just, I think some connection problem. He left the group. We can wait for some time. Usually he joins again. Let's see, Mataji.
Okay.
Yeah. Navya Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Navya, you are Nitya's friend from Chennai? Are you? No.
Yes, hi Swami. She's
Yeah, I am
my
from
office
Chennai.
friend.
Okay, okay. Very good. Do you also want to read the verse and the purport sometimes? Do you think it's possible or?
Yeah, Mataji, it's possible.
It's okay.
Okay, okay. Very nice, Damya. I see you connecting regularly. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you for making me participating in this.
Are able to follow everything?
Yeah,
You can ask the doubts and yeah.
yeah, sure.
Okay, okay. I think we should go to the next verse and read it, and maybe Guru Maharaj might come and finish the story. So Navya, do you want to read this?
Yeah, I will read.
Okay.
त्रैगुण्य विसाय वेदा निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थो निर्योगाक्षेम आत्मवान्.
Translation.
Shall I proceed with translation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Master.
The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to those three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Purport. All material activities involve actions and reactions in the fruitive results which cause bondage in a material world. The Vedas deal mostly with the fruitive activities to gradually elevate the general public from the field of sense gratification to a position on the transcendental plane. Arjuna, as a student and friend of Lord Krishna, is advised to raise himself to transcendental position of Vedanta philosophy where in the beginning there is Brahma Jignasa or questions on the supreme transcendence. All the living entities who are in the material world are struggling very hard for existence. For them, the Lord, after creation of the material world, gave the Vedic wisdom advising how to live and get rid of the material entanglement. When the activities of sense gratification, namely the karma kanda chapter, are finished, then the chance of spiritual realization is offered in the form of the Upanishads, which are part of different Vedas. As the Bhagavad Gita is part of fifth Veda, namely Mahabharata, the Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. As long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth, or by tolerating such dualities become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, are you able to hear us?
Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. So I was hearing, I would like to feel that they're done for our sense gratification. We want to enjoy something in the material world. So they're not on the yoga ladder at all. Karma kanda activities are material activities. So therefore, the purport Prabhupada explains that the Upanishads mark the beginning of transcendental life. The Upanishads are a step above the karma kanda activities. The Upanishads are the first step in the path of transcendence. Upanishads, the knowledge which brings us closer to the Supreme. The Upanishads, you know, this Bhagavad Gita is also called, it's called the Gita Upanishad. It's not exactly like the Upanishads. The original Upanishads are part of the Vedas. But the Bhagavad Gita is called Gita Upanishad because it's elementary knowledge. And just as the Upanishads also, they're from the Vedas, they're from the Yajurveda. Well, different Upanishads are there. Generally, they're from the Yajurveda. And they're introducing the topic of transcendence. But karmakandi activities is what most materialistic people are all interested in. You know, they want to enjoy something, they want some pleasure, they want to get some sense gratification in their material life. Therefore, they perform these kind of karmakandi activities. But Bhagavad Gita is meant for something more than just karmakandi activities. Karmakandi activities are, although Krishna may use it at one point, he uses it to encourage Arjuna. He said, you know, if you fight, it opens the doors to the heavenly planets. So that was karmakanda. Krishna is telling Arjuna, if you fight, even you're killed in the battle, you'll go to heaven. So this is karmakandi activities like that. You can go to heaven, you'll enjoy heaven, even you're killed in the battle. So a devotee is not attracted like that. A devotee doesn't think like that. A devotee will think more about going to Krishna. A devotee is not interested so much in going to heaven, but he's thinking about going back to Krishna. He's thinking about connecting in devotional service, which is far above karmakanda activities.
Guru Maharaj, you were telling about the story of Sudama, and Sudama was doesn't have anything, and he was just taking something to. Yeah, after that, your connection got disconnected, Guru Maharaj. We didn't hear the. Yeah.
Should I tell the rest of the story?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. If you have enough time, or if you feel there is the next. Yeah, or
well, I thought it was relevant because the verse was talking about opulence. And Sudama was a Brahmana, and he didn't like opulence. He wasn't attracted to opulence. He liked to be very poor, you know, and he was so renounced. He wouldn't go and beg, even though he had a wife. He wouldn't go out and beg and get some food and bring things home for her. And so he was very austere and renounced. But when he went to Dwarka to see Lord Krishna, of course, worshipped him because he's a Brahmin, and Brahmanas are very dear to Lord Krishna. And then Lord Krishna also took some of the dry rice which Sudama had bought. So Sudama took some. He didn't like to give it to Krishna, but Krishna forced him to give it to him. So Krishna took a little of the dry rice. And then when Sudama went home, then he found that his whole home had been transformed. And what his home was originally, it was a very simple little dwelling place, had become a palace. And his wife had been dressed in rags, and now she was dressed in beautiful clothes with jewelry, and she had many servants, and their whole living condition was totally transformed. And their life, it became so opulent. But Sudama, he didn't like all this opulence, so he had to live with it. Krishna gave it to him to encourage his mood of renunciation, that even though he had so much opulence, he accepted it in the mood of renunciation. He didn't think of it for his own enjoyment. So it said that very soon Sudama went home back to Godhead. And he stayed for some time in the opulent palace, but then very soon he went back to Godhead. Because Krishna loved him so much, Krishna brought him back to the spiritual world. But Krishna wanted just to put Sudama into that condition, being surrounded by opulence. And, and what could Sudama do? What could he do? He accepted it in the mood of renunciation. He didn't try to enjoy it. He just thought, everything is Krishna's, it's all Krishna's. So he didn't take it for his own enjoyment. He didn't become fallen or degraded. He saw it all as Krishna's arrangement. Anyway, that's a very well-known story. People all generally know this story of Sudama. And there's a wonderful place also where Sudama comes from. There's a temple there. The king had built a big temple there in honor of Sudama and Lord Krishna's pastime. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, we are hearing you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. So the first 30 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, the first section of the second chapter was dealing with knowledge, where Lord Krishna was explaining about the difference between the body and the soul. And then from verse 30 up to verse 40, we were hearing about Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga means, well, Buddhi means intelligence and linking with intelligence that one should work. It's like karma yoga with some knowledge there. Doing karma yoga means working in a detached way, but generally karma yogi doesn't have much knowledge. But Buddhi yoga means doing karma yoga with some knowledge, with a little bit of, so that was described there in verses 30 to 40. And now Krishna is going on, he's going to explain more about this karma yoga, working in a detached way where one will not suffer from the reactions of the work. I've got a big thunderstorm here, so I may lose the connection very soon, I don't know. We've been quite lucky for a few weeks, but seems like today we may have some more power failure.
Yeah.
So I have a little question about a friend of mine asked me about the building of this beautiful temple in Mayapur.
Yes.
Are the workers still working on this temple, or due to the COVID, everything is stopped? So this friend here, he asked
well,
me.
it has been stopped, but I heard the workers have just started to come back now. They're just starting to come back now, but it has been stopped for several months. I think, maybe about 6 months, I think, the work has been stopped. But now the workers are coming back, and they're going to begin again.
So I will transmit this to my friend, okay? Thank you.
Guru Maharaj, you were telling karma yoga means working without detachment, and with little knowledge, we are acting in Buddhi yoga. So my question is, like previously we heard the lecture, yoga ladder lecture, and So is it like little knowledge means knowledge that only devotional service will help us, that Krishna is the supreme God, that when it gets added to karma yoga, it becomes buddhi yoga?
Yes, right. Yeah, right. We have karma yoga. You know, we're detached from the results of the work, and we may give the result. We don't really know who's the supreme. We may not know who's the supreme. You may be doing karma yoga. You know, you can go to a Mayavadi ashram. You know, they will ask you to do karma yoga, but they're not devotees. They're not thinking working for Krishna. They just work in a detached way. You know, it's like doing some voluntary work or offering some service for the ashram without anything coming in return. And so that's karma yoga. We work without attachment to the result. But generally, karma yoga also means that you do what is particularly attractive to you, what you like to do. You know, something, you know, maybe you like to cook, so you want to cook for Krishna. And someone, you know, we have particular desires. We want to work in a particular way. But bhakti yoga is where we'll do anything for Krishna. Karma yoga, we work and then we surrender the result. But with bhakti yoga, we should surrender first and then we work. But buddhi yoga, which was described, buddhi yoga is said to be karma yoga with a little bit of knowledge added in there. And that's what Krishna was describing there in those verses in the Bhagavad Gita, talking about when you work for me, that knowledge is working for Krishna, connecting to Krishna, understanding Krishna is the supreme, offering the results to him.
Yeah, thank you, Guru Maharaj. So, Guru Maharaj, like voluntary work, like social service, that can be also taken as karma yoga, like they are doing some service without any expectation, giving means helping other people.
Well, that's not karma yoga. That's just social. That's material welfare work. That's not spiritual.
Okay.
But it's detached work. It's detached work, and so in that way it's good because you're detached. You're working for others' benefit. You're not being selfish. But to do actual karma yoga, there should be some connection to the supreme, to the higher force, the spiritual energy.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I understand.
Just doing welfare activity, bodily welfare activities, that's mundane. But karma yoga, it has to be something which is more related to the spiritual platform. It will be performed. You work in a temple. You go to a temple and you do some work there. You don't just go to someone's house and do something for them. You go to the temple and you do something for the deity or whichever deity is there. So based on some spiritual culture has to be there for it to become karma yoga. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about karma yoga several times. You have to do your duty, Arjuna, and don't be attached to the result. That's karma yoga. Of course, some people, they may work and they may surrender only a part of the result. So that is also karma yoga. It's not that they surrender the whole result, but they surrender some portion, tiny portion of the result. So there's Sakama Karma Yoga and Niskam Karma Yoga. Different levels. So it might be good we do the japa now.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
I think for Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama